clouds. Very well-defined energy that is pushing now into West Texas. There's a cold front that's also moving through with this system. So that front is essentially right in here. So that front's going to be moving to the east. We've got the big storm that is coming through. As that storm and that front moves closer to us, showers and thunderstorms are expected to develop along that front later tonight in western Oklahoma and western parts of Texas. In fact, the Storm Prediction Center is already outlining this area here for a tornado watch overnight. And then those thunderstorms would move to the east, closer to East Texas. We're all quiet right now. We'll be all quiet, I think, until, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning we have some rain showers. We get closer to 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, we'll start to see some thunderstorms develop. So we've got about 9 hours before we have to worry. Still, and this is the weather, this is going to be the severe outlook that is ongoing currently until 6 a.m. tomorrow, and that has a marginal or level 1 risk entering Henderson County, Van Zandt County, Wood County, and Rains County, just a little sliver of Smith County. However, that'll get extended to the east tomorrow. This whole area out here generally just shifts to the east, so that by tomorrow, now we have this slight risk from Dallas to Athens to Jacksonville. And again, this outlook starts at 6 Tuesday, runs through 6 Wednesday. However, okay, that doesn't mean it's going to be an all-day thing. The outlook that we have here for the enhanced risk in orange, or the level 3 out of 5, it's really 6 a.m. till 10 a.m. and then it's gone. It moves over into Louisiana. And it's this area that really prompted the expansion. This was back in Louisiana earlier today. Storm Prediction Center pushed it back to the northwest because this is the area where there is a lot of wind forecast to move through, some spin in the atmosphere, and also just a little bit of energy that could all come together and give us a tornado warning in that area in orange. Otherwise, there is a wind advisory from midnight until 6 o'clock Tuesday. That's on top of that severe weather outlook. So the wind advisory covers the fact that we could have those wind gusts that could exceed 50 miles an hour. So keep that. Also, just kind of remember that we have the threat that we could see some very strong wind gusts coming through and after the storm. So a wind advisory is also in effect. All right, let's move on. We'll talk about some needed ingredients for severe weather. Dew points. We need moisture, right? So a professor of mine always said we needed dew points higher than 62 for him to really consider a real threat of severe weather. Well, we're already up to 60 at Tyler and 60 at Henderson. There is deeper moisture out toward Crockett. You go over toward Waco, Waxahachie, toward Fort Worth. Dew points are meeting that criteria. I do anticipate an increase in moisture throughout the overnight hours. You can kind of feel the humidity in the air. Longview right now, not quite to that criteria. Marshall is just a little bit below it, but again, we're only here at about 8:30 on Monday night, and so we should continue to see the moisture flowing in from the south. All right, storm energy. This is important, especially if you're going to have some big-time hailers and strong tornadoes. You'd want to be in this strong to extreme. Right now, we're sitting here in this moderate, and that's tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. And on this one computer model, this is as high as it gets. So it's kind of there and kind of not. If you wanted a better chance for tornadoes, you'd want this to be a little bit higher, and you'd want this to exist a little bit longer into the day. The fact that it's there at 6 a.m., by 9 a.m., it's virtually gone because the thunderstorms have raced through there. Now, here's a key component to this. This is going to be the low-level jet stream. These are winds at 5,000 feet off the surface. This is important because those low-level winds can help to start a thunderstorm rotating. It can also help to maintain the updraft so that the air continues to rise into that thunderstorm. The other component to this is that as those winds are blowing at 5,000 feet, gravity can force those to the ground. So downward momentum, downward transfer. So we could have these very strong winds become downdrafts in a thunderstorm, and that could create some wind damage. So right now in that yellow, they're close to 65 miles an hour at Mount Pleasant, and that's at 3 o'clock in the morning. So these storms are also just racing through here. Notice what happens at 7:30. They increase to the order of about 80 to 90 miles an hour. As that wind is transferred down to the surface, of course, it encounters frictional forces, and so it does slow down or weaken. So it's not, we won't see 90-mile-an-hour winds at the surface here, but this just gives you an indication if you could have some damaging wind gusts in excess of 60 miles an hour with a severe thunderstorm warning. It could happen, and it could happen at a really early part of the day, about 7:30 in the morning. We skip ahead to 8:30, and these winds enhance just a little bit, again, in that area that the Storm Prediction Center was more concerned about. So you've got these very strong low-level winds increasing just a little bit the farther east they go. But by 9:30, notice they're moving into Louisiana, and by 11 o'clock, basically gone. So that threat again, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. across East Texas. And then we just have strong winds being downward transferred from a loft down to the surface. And that's why we have the gusty winds that could be in excess of 50 miles an hour. All right, when we look at the supercell potential, this is taking all of the energy, the spin in the atmosphere, and we're talking about what's the index, what's possible. Well, there's a couple of things. This is out of alignment with what the National Weather Service or Storm Prediction Center has in that area that has a better chance to see a tornado. In this area in green, at least in this one computer model's vision, it has tornadoes unlikely. It has a better chance for supercells farther to the south, where there is a chance to have some squirrely wind gusts. I call them that. Some strong wind gusts, some hail, and of course heavy rainfall, but that goes into deep East Texas. But in this area here, just kind of a mismatch with the data, so we'll see how that plays out. All right, so let's go over the severe ingredients. The moisture's certainly there. The storm energy is there, but it's not there very long. Wind shear is there. The strong winds aloft are there. The abundant spin I just showed you, it's kind of there, but it's just misplaced where we would think we'd get a tornado. This is why it's very conditional for the tornado setup tomorrow. And we do have a frontal boundary with a cold front moving through during the morning hours, racing quickly. So the severe weather threat, again, 6 to about 10. And then I kept the damaging wind threat in through 3 o'clock, only because we're going to have those wind gusts, post-storm wind gusts, that could get up to 50 miles an hour. Hail's a small threat. Tornado's a conditional threat. Power outages, this is something to keep in mind. You may lose power either in the thunderstorm or even behind the thunderstorm. If you have a wind gust that exceeds 50 miles an hour, breaks a branch, falls on a power line, then you're going to lose power. It's not a guarantee. It would be what they call isolated or sporadic, maybe even just regional in places, but again, not going to be a definite thing to happen. All right, then we go to future skycast. Now this is, if anybody's asking where, what time, let's follow along here. I'm going to start this at 3 a.m. At that time, there's a 70% chance of just plain old rain. So while you're sleeping through the nights, plain old rain, severe weather threat, not there at 3 a.m. Right on through 6 a.m., we're fine. Now we get to 6 a.m., that cell there, I'll circle a couple of cells that are starting to have a little bit of concern. Now, if this was mid-afternoon and it was May, this would be a tornado. But it's early morning Tuesday, prior to daybreak, Tuesday morning. It makes it dangerous, but it's lacking needed energy. The heat, not certainly there, about 70 degrees, so it's not a ton of heat. So we go forward a little bit in time, and then we start to see this other cluster of thunderstorms. Now, any one of those could have some damaging wind gusts as they erupt and move into Tyler about 7 a.m. This one here, if you look at this little shape that this storm has here, these could be some of those strong, low-level winds being pushed and then forced down to the ground. So out ahead of that, through parts of Camp County, Titus, Morris, and Franklin County, there could be some damaging wind gusts. Also, some damaging wind gusts would be possible up through Gregg and up through Upshur County. They race quickly. By 8 a.m., the strongest winds have now moved across into Louisiana, southwest Arkansas, and have moved over here toward Marshall and Carthage, where there could be some damaging wind gusts. This is the front, but behind it, you've popped the energy. You've zapped the atmosphere of that energy that it needed. The strongest winds are aloft here, and then by 10 o'clock, except for down here toward Nacogdoches, where I don't think it's 48 degrees, but it could be 58 degrees. You've got rain, and you have some thunderstorms. It's too cool for severe weather at that point. I think Center and San Augustine are also just in the rain, and then the storm is gone. So that's it with the storm. It's really, again, that 6 to 10 a.m. time frame, damaging wind gusts. If all the conditions came together perfectly, then we could have maybe a tornado warning. All right, here's your weather impact. Baylor Scott and White, Texas Spine and Joint Hospital 10-day forecast. So weather impact alert tomorrow. Stormy in the morning, but it's windy all day. Then sunshine on Wednesday, 59. Thursday, we're up to 68, 77 on Friday. Rest of the 10-day forecast looks pretty good. All right, I did not see any questions on our Facebook page. I'll continue to look for those. If you do have a question, please post it. I'll try to answer that afterwards. Otherwise, I appreciate you taking the time out to watch our weather briefing here. Again, we don't have any watches or warnings currently in place here in East Texas. Overnight, we may get one. It would likely come after 3 o'clock in the morning and run through probably maybe 4 a.m. to noon, something of that nature, with our prime time to see severe weather, if we're going to see any, between 6 and 10 a.m. All right, we will work on some graphics for you for CBS 19 News at 10 o'clock. Until then, have a safe evening.